Thanks for having me. And one of these days, I'm gonna make it up in person to Wisconsin. I'd love to do that and get up there with the beautiful cooler weather. Although it's pretty nice here today in Kansas. So thank you guys for having me. We are going to talk about executive functioning skills and AAC. I'm going to start my timer so that I can be making sure I'm on time with what we're doing. But we're going to talk about this connection between an executive functioning and AAC. And really how this topic came about was I was working with Gail Bowser out of Oregon on some things. And we were talking about executive function skills and we were talking about AAC. And she said, have you ever thought about bringing these together for a training? And I was like, no, I hadn't. She said, well, would you? And I was like, sure, I would. And then I panicked. I had months and months where I was working on this and kind of trying to think about it and just was like, oh gosh, what did I say yes to? But then it all clicked. So I'm excited to share this with you and go through this. So a little bit about me. There we go. A little bit about me. I am a speech pathologist by training and was in the schools for 32 years. 23 of them, I was in Lawrence, Kansas. That's where I live. I've been in Texas. I've been in Nebraska. So I've done urban, I've done rural, and I've done kind of we're almost suburban in Lawrence, but we're not actually a suburb of Kansas City. So then in July of 22, I retired and started my own LLC, and now I'm doing professional development and everything. So that is what I'm focusing on. So here you'll have my email address, you have the website for my business, and I want to show you some different resources. My financial disclosures are on here that I am the owner of Buckingham Educational Services and Training, and I am an independent contractor with UCP Seguin, Infinitec, and then my non-financial. So I'm going to kind of close this for a second and show you a few things. So this is my website, and I want to show you what you will have access to. So if you go to the website and go to resources, I have a lot of different resources on here, and these are all hot links. But if you go to training handouts and go to executive functioning and AAC resources, you will be asked to enter a password, and the password is Daisy with no capital. And then when you get into that, you are going to see the slides from the training. And I don't know that these are the most updated ones, but they're pretty close. You're going to see a planning tool that we're going to talk about. There's some checklists here. There's the communication matrix link and just different links that we're talking about. So anything that I'm talking about, you can find on this page. So if later you're going, oh, I can't remember where that is and everything, here's the information. So I wanted to share that with you. And then also wanted to point out a couple of other things that we're going to go over. And one of them is this link right here at what age does executive functioning develop? And that is going to take you to this website. And the reason I want to show it to you is because when I show it on the slide, you're going to be very angry at me because it's very small, but I couldn't really blow it up without losing everything. So I want to show you where you can get access to it. So this is what you'll see on the slide. And yes, I know you can't see it, but if you go to this website and go to, I believe it's download here, download the resolution printable one, you can put in your email address and get access to it. And I am not affiliated with these people at all. I just give you the link for this because this is their material and I don't want to just hand it to you because it's not mine to hand out. So please, if you want this information, go in, put your email in there and you can then download it. And then also we're going to be talking about the communication matrix, which if you're not familiar with the communication matrix, it's communicationmatrix.org. It's an assessment. You can get access to it for free and do like 5 assessments, I think, a year for free. There's also a paper version you can download for free. So I just wanted to point those out before we got going, because these are going to be 2 big pieces we talk about. And I wanted to show you the website so that you can get the information later. So we're going to jump back into the training part and go over some different things. So what we're going to go over today are, the goal is that you'll understand what executive functioning skills are, that you'll be able to identify them and how to identify those in a student who uses AAC, and then also understand how to teach these to students who use AAC. But really, this is not really new information. It's just how to think about something differently. So these are what I call my real goals. You know, the other ones are the ones we have to have for CEUs, but this is really what I want you to do. I want you to learn something new. I want you to think differently about something you already know, because if you've been in the field for very long at all, I'm really not going to share anything that you don't already know, but I want you to think differently about what you know. I want you to reevaluate it, that you'll expand your learning, and maybe you'll make a new friend. Maybe you'll see somebody on this list and go, oh, wow, I have heard of them before. I'm going to connect with them, or something like that. And that really what I want, and what I always want when I do training, is that the next time you're working with students, the next time you're in the classroom, that you'll take one thing from today and you'll try it with a student, that it will change your practice just a little bit. So what I would like you to do is pop into the chat box who you are. You don't have to put your name, but just kind of what your role is. You know, are you a speech path? Are you an OT? Or are you PT? Or are you a SPED teacher? Kind of who are you? What is your role? And kind of a little bit about what you're bringing to the table with all that. So if you could pop that into the chat box really quick, that would be great. And I'm looking over, when I turn my screen's over on this side. So if you could do that. Okay, SLPA, SLP, great. SLPs, SPED, okay. Okay, whoever is the kindergarten through second grade and high school SLP, you are my kinship SLP. I was early childhood and high school at one point. And people were always like, oh my gosh, aren't those so different? And I was always like, no, really not as much as you think. So that's a fun connection. Okay, great. Excellent. Ooh, we have a TBI here. Excellent. Wonderful. Well, I'm so excited that we have lots of different, not just a mom, awesome, Heidi. Thank you for being here. And I hope this is just going to give you a little bit different perspective on things. So great. Thank you guys for popping that in there. So to kind of get started, and again, we're going to do a lot of things. I would love for you, as I say, and ask you a question to answer. If you are one who feels comfortable answering aloud, please do that. Otherwise, pop it into the chat and, you know, do that. But I do want to do lots of participation. Kathy and I were talking about how, you know, it's so different to present online than in person. But definitely feel comfortable verbalizing your answers or popping them into the chat box. So one of my questions is, how do you select vocabulary to teach a student? So when we're looking at students who are AAC users, how do you currently select vocabulary to teach a student? And a couple of different options are, we have core vocabulary that we often do, which are those core words, which are the 400 words that do 80% of our language, and core words are definitely important. And then there's also tiered vocabulary, and tiered vocabulary is actually taken from this book called Bringing Words to Life, and by Isabel Beck, Margaret McCowan, and Linda Kukin. I apologize if I butchered those names, and they talk about tiered vocabulary. So tiered vocabulary is, there's 3 different tiers of vocabulary, and those tiers are basic, or tier 1 are the basic words, which may or may not be core words. So all core words are likely to be tiered vocabulary, but all tiered vocabulary words are not core words. Okay, so kind of think of that. And then, so tier 1 are going to be words that are common in our language that we're speaking, that are just part of that. Tier 2 are those words that you might need, that are maybe you use them a little less frequently, but they're still a part of your vocabulary that you're using, but are not as intense of specific words, I guess that's a good way to say it, as tier 3, which tier 3 words are words that are very much in literature and that we see mostly in literature. So currently, how do you select vocabulary to teach a student? And if you want to open up and say something, that would be great. And if not, just kind of pop it into the chat box. And I will tell you, I've done a little bit of all of it in my career. Okay, while you guys are popping some different things, I'm gonna motivating fringe vocabulary with high frequency core. Okay, great. Start with core in tier 1. Yeah. Meaningful and with routines, wonderful. So a lot of different ways that we do it, and different, it's really going to differ kind of by the student and the age that you're working with. But one of the biggest things we want to do is we want to make sure that we're presuming competence. And this is from Trisha Johnson, who's the president of Building Wings. And I loved this quote and told her I was going to be using it. And it's presuming competence is that belief that all students can learn, though in different ways at different times and with different learning styles, and the learning style that best suits them. And that's really what we want to do when we're picking vocabulary, is we want to know that all students can learn vocabulary, all students can learn the different information, and all students can be using this and expanding their language as they're doing things. So as we jump into executive function skills, the term itself comes from neuroscience literature. It is not an educational based word or concept. It's a neuroscience one. And it refers to the brain-based skills that are required for humans to perform or execute tasks. And this is from the book Smart But Scattered, which a lot of this information is going to be from. And if you don't have the book, it is a great one. I highly recommend it. It's a really easy read. And no, I don't get any royalties or anything from them, but this is where the information, so executive function skills, the wording itself, terminology comes from neuroscience literature. And a Harvard study actually calls executive functioning skills the air traffic control system of the brain. And one of the things that is really important to know is that we are all born with the potential to develop executive function skills. So we have the innate ability to learn them, but it is going to be based on our experiences. So if we don't experience something, we are not going to learn it. So if we don't experience time management and we don't experience emotional control, we're not going to learn those things. And this is really true when you think of different cultures, because different cultures have different executive function skills that prioritize. So as we're talking about this, remember that we are talking about Western culture executive function skills. So if you're working with a student who is from a different country, a different culture, those executive function skills are going to potentially look very different for that person. So use the information we're talking about today as kind of a foundation to then learn more about that specific culture. So when we're looking at executive function skills, it's really the air traffic control system. And these are some really important things to know. One of the things I love to do is I love to read meta-analysis studies on executive function skills. It's a strange thing that I love to do, but this was a really good one that really talked about some things that you need to know. And this stuck out to me because it talks about that all children benefit from executive function intervention, but the ones that benefit the most are the ones that have the lowest executive function skills, and that we need to incrementally increase the demand of executive function skills for us to increase those gains. Think about it like this. If you are working out and you only ever use 10-pound dumbbells and you never ever increase to a 15-pound or a 12-pound dumbbell, your muscle is going to build to a certain point and then it's just going to kind of stop building. It's not going to grow after that. And so that's what we need to do with executive functioning skills, is we need to keep pumping them up and just keep incrementally increasing it. Also, repeated practice is the key. Repetition, repetition, repetition. And also, executive function skills are trainable and can be improved at any age. So to say, well, my student is in high school, it's too late to get started. No, it's not. Or the student I work with is in the transition program and is going to be aging out next year. It's too late. No, it's not. But the earlier in life you start this, the more stronger the executive function skills are going to be. And we've found, or the research has found, that there is more of a prediction for lifelong achievement. So the earlier you start it, there's more prediction for lifelong achievement, but you can start this at any age and really make some progress. So it was about this time last year that I read this information from Russell Barkley, and he talked about 4 different steps of executive function skills. And 1, there's the volition or using one's will. 2, there's the planning, or for us SLPs, a big SLP word is schema. And then there's purposeful action, and then effective performance. And I thought about this like raking leaves, because I was looking out my office window and I have this big tree that had these beautiful leaves on it and they were getting ready to fall. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's like raking leaves. So to rake leaves, we need to do these different steps. So I would like you guys to think about what is the volition, and if you can pop it in there, or somebody unmute yourself, the volition that you would have to have for raking leaves. You have to go, oh, I need to rake the leaves. And then you need to do the planning. What would you need to do the planning for raking leaves? And if somebody wants to unmute or pop some things in the box, that would be great. I see we have a Lauren Buckingham. Lauren, maybe we're distantly related, or our families are distantly related. I don't know. I guess I'm married into Buckingham. So what would you need for planning for raking leaves? I know I would need a rake. I would need some bags. I call them the claws or something. Amy just popped in the different materials, a rake, some gloves. Yeah, I do gloves, maybe long sleeves so they don't get you. So you get that idea of what are the planning, what are the different things I need? And then purposeful action. Ooh, checking the weather to make sure it's not raining. That's good, because you really don't want to do wet leaves. So the purposeful action is doing it, right? Is going out there and raking. And then the effective performance is continuing. Because, when you start raking leaves, you buy that 5-pack of leaf bags and you think that's all you're going to need. And you start raking and you get through those 5 bags and you still have half a yard left, right? And you have to go get more. And so effective performance is continuing to do it and getting going with them. So what I want you to think about, and we're not going to do it right now, but I would like you to think about it and do it later, is pick a common task that you do and break it down with an executive functioning structure. Like volition. What's the volition? What's the planning? What's the purposeful action? And then effective performance. I also think this would be a really fun activity to do with kids as a language lesson. And I would be using the word volition, because kids can learn these words. They can learn these difficult words if we are using with them. But go ahead and pair it with using your will or your desire or your plan or whatever you want to do. But don't be afraid of using those words with students.